When it comes to professional sports, there are some athletes who transcend traditional fame. So much so that it does not matter what generation a fan is from, the player's name will warrant a response. Whether it be a public appearance or an interview or documentary, even the slightest mention of their names will garner interest. Consider baseball, which is not exactly this generation's favorite sport to watch. But everyone, even the most casual fans, will know who Babe Ruth was, which is why even decades and decades after his death, he is still referenced in pop culture, like in the '93 cult classic film The Sandlot.
Who's there? But you're...
Dead? Legends never die, Keith.
But you're really him. You're the Babe.
In the NFL, it is guys like Tom Brady, Brett Favre, and Joe Montana, who became larger than life, bordering on caricatures of themselves. Are any of those three the single best player in the league right now? No. But if you were to survey a random group of people, it's a pretty safe bet that they'll at the very least recognize the names and associate them with greatness. Perhaps even more so than a modern star like Patrick Mahomes. Because the mythology that is developed around these legendary athletes has even more mystique than their actual careers. But as famous and successful as these guys were, Michael Jordan simply takes it to a whole new stratosphere. He stands alone, and without any hyperbole, is the most famous athlete of all time, and one of the greatest to ever lace him up in any sport, if not the single best. Think about it. MJ was and is so big that his brand was powerful enough to exist on its own. He went from representing and wearing Nike to now having his own entire line of clothes, shoes, and apparel underneath Nike's umbrella, which is insane to think about, and quite a leap from the 5-year, $500,000 per year deal that he signed with Nike coming out of UNC. When you look at the numbers, it's even more striking. I mean, Nike's brand is valued at approximately $35 billion, and remaining a leading endorser still didn't make financial sense for Jordan anymore. Obviously, he's not the first NBA player to have a signature shoe, nor is he the last, but I doubt that even someone like LeBron James will ever be able to create a brand with the cultural significance that the Jordan brand has. When you think about Air Jordans and all the classic shoes that have come out through the years, Nike is strangely almost an afterthought. They're Jordans first and Nike second. And that's because Michael Jordan is bigger than Nike, and he's bigger than basketball. He is a cultural icon who has turned damn near everything he's touched into a money-making machine. MJ was the lead in one of the most famous sports movies of all time, Space Jam, and he was the driving force in making the NBA what it is today. After Jordan retired in '98, the NBA's ratings fell for 4 consecutive seasons, and it lost over 2 million viewers seemingly overnight. And when he came back, even as a 38-year-old with the eternally irrelevant Washington Wizards, it sent shockwaves through the entire sports universe. The point being, when Michael Jordan does something, anything at all really, it moves the needle. So, needless to say, people were amped up when they heard that ESPN was going to move up their release of the 10-part documentary of Jordan and the '90s Bulls titled The Last Dance. The doc was supposed to be released on the off nights in between games during this year's NBA Finals. But with the Finals itself now hanging in the balance and everyone strapped to their couches in quarantine, ESPN stepped up and announced that it would release the documentary in 5 waves. The first 2 episodes aired on April 19th, and the subsequent installments on the following 4 Sundays. The premise of the documentary is fascinating. It originated from a secret project that the NBA teamed up with the Bulls and Jordan for back in '97, when it appeared that Jordan was set to play his final season in the NBA. The project simultaneously chronicles 2 separate timelines. It covers both Michael Jordan and the Bulls' initial ascension to immortality, dating all the way to MJ's humble beginnings in Wilmington, North Carolina. And the second timeline is a careful examination of the 1997-1998 NBA season, which was the impetus for the entire project to begin with. Bulls coach Phil Jackson frequently referred to that 97-98 season as the last dance, using it as a motivational tool with the players because of the growing sense that it would be the last year of the dynasty. Despite the fact that the group had already won 5 championships and looked poised to win another, Chicago's 3 biggest stars, Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson, and Scottie Pippen, were all at odds with Bulls ownership for their own reasons. They had been told before the 97 season that the ownership was ready for a rebuild without Jackson, who often butted heads with the execs, and in all likelihood without Pippen, who was livid with his contract situation and the continued disrespect he felt from the front office. A front office which didn't do itself many favors towards the end of this historic run. In fact, It was so contentious that then Bulls manager Jerry Krause, who, by the way, receives a lot of criticism through the first 2 installments of the series, famously told Phil Jackson that he could lead the Bulls to an 82-0 record, and there was still no chance he'd be back the following season. While this may seem unfathomable looking back, it is strangely not even the most shocking part of the entire documentary. The most shocking information lies in how this epic documentary was originally conceived, how long the NBA and Jordan sat on it, and perhaps most intriguing of all, the catalyst for the two finally pushing it into production and out to the masses. If you tuned in, or when you do, you will notice it features a vast collection of interviews spread across a number of years that features a variety of different characters inside the organization, media members, celebrities, and even some of Jordan's competitors. And while the varied perspectives are interesting, they also raise an adjacent question. Why now, in 2020, is this being released? When MJ retired from the Bulls in '98, and then again from professional basketball entirely in 2003. It seems like there were countless opportunities to make this thing happen, whether it be MJ's final retirement in 2003, or maybe in 2009, when Jordan was inducted to the Basketball Hall of Fame. Either way, it is confounding that it took this long to happen. So let's take a look back at how exactly this groundbreaking documentary came to be, and why it took so damn long to be released. Interestingly, the whole idea of the documentary was the brainchild of now NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, who was at the time the head of the NBA's entertainment department, another NBA executive named Greg Winnick, and an NBA entertainment producer named Andy Thompson, who is actually Klay Thompson's uncle. Thompson had shot a number of videos with Jordan during his career, and once he got word of all the internal strife in Chicago and the rumors that the Bulls were going to be broken up and MJ was set to retire, he got to thinking, man, this guy is going to retire, and we've never really fully documented a year in the life of potentially the greatest athlete in the history of the sport. So he pitched the idea to his bosses, Silver and Winnick, and they were thrilled with the idea. They just needed to develop a plan as to how they could get all of the egos involved on board with the concept. Silver's first task was to get the backing of Bulls owner Jerry Reinsdorf, who quickly gave him his blessing. That is, if Jordan and Jackson gave Silver the final stamp of approval, which, by the way, after seeing the first 2 episodes of the documentary, it was the least that Reinsdorf could have done, considering all of the havoc he let Jerry Krause cause during the final few seasons of the Bulls dynasty. But I digress. Silver says that Jackson was an easy sell on the idea. He understood its purpose and he liked the concept. He just wanted the freedom to wave off the cameras if he needed to, which Silver gleefully conceded. Approaching Jordan was another animal. Always an innovator, Silver took a creative approach at selling Jordan on the documentary. There was no negotiation whatsoever, Silver explained to ESPN's Ramona Shelbourne. All I said was, I'm sure there'll be a tough negotiation at some point, but we don't have to have it now, because first and foremost, we have to capture the footage. And then, Silver made a move that lesser men would not have had the stomach to pull off. He relinquished control of his $1 million idea, well, at least half of it, striking an agreement with Jordan that neither party could use a single minute of the footage without the other's permission. And the tapes would be treated like a state secret, sealed away in an undisclosed part of the NBA Entertainment's facility in Secaucus, New Jersey. The producers wouldn't have access to it, and neither would the filmmakers, nor the Bulls or even Silver in the NBA, not until Jordan signed off and gave it the final go-ahead. This would prove to be a brilliant approach by Silver, who by fronting the upfront costs and giving Jordan an equal share of control over the tapes, essentially presented the Bulls superstar with a no-lose proposition. Worst case scenario, there would be a few extra cameras around during the season, and Jordan would have some fun home videos to share with his kids. It was an interesting proposition to Jordan, who is a shrewd businessman way ahead of his time, having been one of the 2 players to opt out of the Players Union's group licensing program, believing he could make exponentially more money by inking his own marketing deals. In hindsight, this seems like an obvious decision, but the NBA was not the giant that it is today, and Jordan was perceived to be taking a big risk when he opted out of the licensing program in 1984. And it took a continued effort from MJ and his agent, David Falk, who also represented Patrick Ewing, the only other player to opt out of the agreement, to protect Jordan's likeness. Falk was quick to sue anyone who dared to use it, claiming it diluted the value of Jordan's image more and more each time it was used. Anyway, The notion of having final say on the video appealed to Jordan, and he gave Silver the okay to have cameras follow him and the rest of the Bulls. Keep in mind, this was 1997. It has been more than 20 years since MJ and Chicago won their 6th and final ring. So why is it coming out now? Well, I'm glad you asked, because it serves as another testament to the fearsome, competitive nature in Michael Jordan that this very documentary sought to put on display. At the time, documentaries were typically 60 to 90 minutes long, which would hardly suffice to tell the full story of the final season, let alone the entire Michael Jordan saga. But with the advent of Netflix and other streaming services, and the smashing success that other serialized documentaries like the O.J. Simpson doc had, MJ started to ponder its release. Silver's patience was key in all of this too. He knew there was no pressuring Michael Jordan into doing anything. He had a better chance of lacing them up and beating him in a one-on-one. And he saw to it that none of the execs that were practically begging him to talk to Mike into putting the documentary out said a word to him, because he feared that that would only turn Jordan off from the idea. It had to be under his own volition, and it had to be stitched together by the right filmmakers. Silver had turned away a bevy of accomplished producers who saw themselves as the right person to tell Jordan's story. Guys like Frank Marshall, Danny DeVito, and Spike Lee. None of them got so much as a meeting with MJ, as his trusted business advisor, S.D. Portnoy, sifted through the offers. That was until Mike Tollin entered the picture. Tollin had his hands on a number of monster projects, like Coach Carter, One Tree Hill, and most importantly, Iverson, a doc that MJ himself loved. Portnoy gave him the okay, and he sketched up a proposal for her and Jordan. They had a meeting set in June of 2016. Right as LeBron was set to square off in yet another epic NBA Finals against Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. And on the exact same day that LeBron and the rest of Cleveland were celebrating the most improbable of NBA Finals victories, MJ gave Tollin and NBA Entertainment the green light to set the project in motion. Tollin actually described the moment like this: "The universe has a funny sense of humor," said Mike Tollin, the producer of The Last Dance, "because when I woke up, I put on ESPN while I'm getting dressed, and there's LeBron and the Cavaliers parading through the streets of Cleveland with the trophy they just won. Whether or not it was actually the pressure of LeBron or Steph and the Warriors closing in on his legacy, MJ will probably never reveal. But considering his insane competitive streak and the coincidental timing of his decision, the two are completely inextricable. So, even the biggest Jordan stans out there may owe LBJ a thank you for being the catalyst that finally got these tapes unearthed." What are your thoughts on the Last Dance documentary about Jordan and the Bulls so far? Join us in the comment section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps us out a ton, and we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.